It's that time of year again. We already did our personal top 15 games of the year so far. We did that in September for some reason. But just like last year, we need to see what the true gamers think. What are your games of the year? We asked and you responded. We had 50% more votes than last year, so this is even more scientifically correct, and you can't blame us for any of it. It's all down to you. Subscribe, hit that bell button, it will be the best thing you do today, I promise. Unless you subscribe to my new channel, A Bit More Jordan for a lot more me. Long retrospectives on your favourite classic games, you won't regret that. And yes, before we get into it, there are some rules to this vote. If you want the lowdown of what qualified, join our Discord to find out exactly why things were allowed and why they weren't. Let's jump in. Coming in at number 15, just squeezing in, is Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Seriously, it popped in to number 15 on the very last day of voting. The magic of Mario! Yeah, only Mario could make the Rabbids seem charming. Remember when everyone used to hate them? Not anymore! This long-awaited sequel to one of the best Switch games the system had in its first year. It's been a long time coming, and although the novelty of the mashup idea isn't quite as strong this time around, the gameplay is still the business. They changed up a little bit, made it more open, less of a puzzle-like game of the first one. Some enjoyed it more, some enjoyed it a bit less. Either way, it's still a quality Nintendo Switch exclusive that will look fine in anyone's collection. And by the way, all of the games here have a physical release, and if you want to purchase any of them, please check the links in the description. If you purchase them with our links from VGP, you also support us at the same time. They have great prices in favourable Canadian money, cheap shipping to the US, and free worldwide shipping over 80 Canadian dollars. Click the links in the description, purchase, and thanks for your support. At number 14, Record of Lodoss War Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth. This is a delightful surprise to see here. I was not expecting this one to sneak into the list. This is a short, sweet Metroidvania set in the Record of Lodoss War universe. This was made by Team Ladybug, who are a small developer just pumping out quality games. The art style is gorgeous. It has just the perfect balance for difficulty, and if you're a fan of Symphony of the Night, you'll probably enjoy this one. Obviously, it's not quite that perfection, but they gave it a damn good go, and the physical release artwork is just wonderful, and is another one that looks great on shelves. At number 13, Atelier Sophie 2 is the first of, shall we say, quite a few JRPGs on this list. You guys are hot for the genre, and rightly so. For me, Atelier Sophie 2 isn't as good as the Riser line of games, but it's still a really fun one. More of the same, which is never a bad thing when you've got a formula that works. You might as well stick to it. Gather ingredients, fight monsters, and then whip up some potions and items to advance your alchemic skills. Super charming in every way, and lovely to see it make the top 15 games of the year for you. Riser did better last year, but this is still impressive. At number 12, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, another JRPG technically, and one of the more recent games released. While there's no doubt that these two games released with, shall we say, issues in terms of polish, you can't deny Pokemon just has a certain something that pleases people. Hundreds of Pokemon to catch, some really nice new designs from what I've seen so far, and an open world that feels like it was put together with sellotape. Is perhaps a bit of a step down from Arceus before it, but more than likely due to needing to be thrown out to store shelves in time for Christmas. But, there is a very good game under here that will hopefully be patched up over the coming weeks. I'm looking forward to playing this one with my daughter over Christmas. At number 11, Sunbreak, the DLC for Monster Hunter Rise. Perhaps the most controversial entry in this list. It's a DLC expansion to a game that came out last year, a game that did very well, by the way. This added an entire new arc to the base game and plenty of additional content that it almost makes it qualify as a standalone experience. Feel free to debate that in the comments if you want to, but people made a case to me and I felt, yeah, okay, why not? It's meatier than plenty of other games on this list, adding a full, fat 30 hours or so to the Monster Hunter experience, and it looks as though other consoles are finally going to be getting a chance to play it next year as it goes multi-platform. They're in for a treat. At number 10, Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. This is the kind of sequel we can only ask for, improving on the original game in every possible way, this time including a far more focused story involving the well-loved characters in the Three Houses universe. Yeah, the original Warriors was a bit of a mess for me, and not a particularly inspired Masu game either, but this answered a lot of the questions we had, and although at the end of the day you're still hacking and slashing in mildly repetitive action, but it's weaved into something greater than the sum of its parts. It feels like a game belonging in the Fire Emblem world compared to the original, which felt like a Dynasty Warriors game with Fire Emblem DLC costumes. Don't get us wrong, this isn't the kind of game that's going to rock everyone's world, but it will go some way to making those adverse to Masu games maybe enjoy them. And enjoy it you did, that's why it's at number 10. At number 9, Splatoon 3. This is perhaps going to be the biggest selling game on this list, but despite that, I'm not surprised it's coming in at number 9. I think if this was Splatoon 1, it would have had a good chance of being number 1, but the once freshest game on the competitive shooter scene, perhaps that sheen and excitement has worn off. Obviously, that's not to say this isn't an excellent game, of course it is. It's still one of the most thrilling online games to play, and people out there will be spending thousands of hours in it. There's nothing out there quite like it. Well, except Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2, which, let's face it, are still very much the same type of game. So while this is brilliant, fun, and polished to within an inch of its life, perhaps you guys just aren't as enamored as you once were. At number 8, The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero. Man, I am proud of you, all of you. Perhaps one of the most niche JRPG series out there, getting into the top 10 games of the year. You're all magnificent people. And yeah, before you jump in and say this is an old ass port, well, yeah, it was a PSP game that was ported to Vita, and then ported to PS4, and then ported to the Switch, but none of those were English. The release this year was the first time this epic JRPG was translated into English, and therefore it qualified. And rightly so. It's part of the mammoth Trails of series, somewhere right in the middle, I've been told, and while it's best to play all of them in order to get the full weight of the story arcs, this is not the worst place to dip your toes into the series. This is part of a duology, which is part of its own arc within a much bigger arc, and it's a great time for those who love story, classic visuals, and music. At number 7, we have a big step up in terms of vote numbers. This is where the big boys lay. Bayonetta 3 had a lot of drama surrounding its release, but one thing is clear, it kicks ass. Fans have been waiting like 4 or 5 years for this game, with many thinking it had been cancelled or was vaporware. But Platinum Games came up with the goods and delivered their best game in quite a while. The company had a few duff releases up to this point, not their usual high standards. The faith has returned, along with the Wicked Witch herself, gaining all the plaudits she deserves. Some say it's the finest and most accessible game in the series thus far. At number 6, we have Live Alive. I know what you're saying, this is a Super Famicom game from 1994. True, but this is a total remake and also the first time it's been in English, which means it qualifies. And rightly so. Square Enix had a stroke of genius mixing the original game with the beautiful 2D HD art style made famous by Octopath Traveler. Because the thing about the original game, the main problem people had with it was the graphics. For 1994, they weren't up to Square's usual standards, but now it's one of their best looking games. People also had issue with the length. For a JRPG, a breezy 20 hours or so, yeah, that didn't cut it back in the day, but nowadays, when there are so many games to distract us, some people want to have a compact experience, and this was perfect. The only thing that disappointed me is that Live Alive wasn't at number 5. I thought it was rhyming destiny, but not to be. At number 5, we have another Pokemon game this year, Pokemon Legends Arceus, widely considered to be the most ambitious game Game Freak have ever done. That's not quite saying much, but still it was a great step in the right direction by appealing to what our imaginations thought Pokemon games would be like in the future, like more realistic and such. Yeah, when I was a kid, this is exactly how I wanted a Pokemon game to be. It's a great stepping stone for the series, and although Scarlet and Violet was a bit of a stumble, we can put that down to a rushed release date. More like this please, Game Freak. At number 4, we have the most surprising entry on this list, at least for me, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Yeah, there's no doubt this is a great game, but I'm impressed it managed to outmuscle some of the big first-party titles. Not that it's not deserved, this is a brilliant rendition of the famous Turtles as they beat up all your favorite goons. Many say this is even better than Turtles in Time. Now, I've not played this because the genre isn't high on my list of priorities, although I did thoroughly enjoy River City Girls 2, which, I thought might have had a chance of being on this list, but no. Anyways. Number 3, someone call the fire brigade because Square have been on fire this year, and perhaps none of their releases are as lit as Triangle Strategy. It may have a dumb name, but the only dumb thing are those who haven't played it, because it's amazing. Sure, it's very story heavy. They love talking for hours. So while it might not be to everyone's cup of tea, there are loads of people who have been craving a serious AAA strategy RPG with political intrigue. This obviously was very much welcome. I'm really happy you guys still remembered this one because it came out rather early in the year, which is not always favorable for these kind of votes, but it did it, and I'm very proud, and Square should be proud for giving the people what they want. At number 2, just one more vote than Triangle Strategy was Kirby and the Forgotten Land. This was Kirby's first proper 3D adventure, and what an adventure it is. Charming, full of personality, moments of genius, and yet very approachable for gamers of all ages. Personally, I'm looking forward to introducing my daughter to this game over the Christmas period. Go help all the Waddle Dees in this 10-hour romp. It's perhaps not as open as many would have been hoping for, but I love that it's still very focused. This is the perfect gift game for anyone, big or small. 6 years old, 60 years old, anyone can play it, and that's why it appeals to so many of you. That's why it's number 2 on this list. And now, our number 1, it is Samurai Maiden. Oh, that's my list. Sorry about that. Hang on. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Okay, I think you all saw this coming by far and away, like not even close, with twice as many votes as Kirby, the easiest game of the year 2022 according to you. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, what is there to say about this? Well, it shows the developers, Monolith Soft, are one of the all-time giants in JRPG creation. I'd say they are now equal footing with Square, Bandai, Konami when they could be asked. The absolute scale of this game is bewildering, and it manages to give that lost sense of freedom older JRPGs used to give you. Nowadays they feel so restrictive, but not with the Xenoblade series around. While some would debate, the first game still being the best in the series, Xenoblade 3 is going to give it a good run for its money, and once the dust settles and opinions have gestated, I wouldn't be surprised if this surpassed number 1 in terms of status. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is your game of the year. Thank you for voting. Which ones did you vote for? Let me know. Do you think this list turned out fair? If you want to purchase any of these physically, consider using the links below. If you want them digitally, we have eShop credit at SwitchWatch.net. Check out some of our other stuff. We got a lot of stuff coming this December if you hadn't noticed already. Go watch them. They're here right now. You can see them on the screen, yeah? Watch them!